Okay, so since I haven't done a reading for you guys in a while, I thought we would pick up on Saint John of Kronstadt's Spiritual Counsels. We are now going to be discussing pride, and this is super important, I think, for all of us. Let me put on my glasses here because I'm old now. And really, I mean, if you guys have seen the font, like the size of the font in this book, it is disturbing. Okay. Like, honestly, let's get real. Are you reading that without glasses? I don't think so. Okay. So, pride. There is absolutely nothing for a Christian to be proud of in accomplishing works of righteousness, for he is saved, constantly delivered from every evil through faith alone. In the same manner, he accomplishes works of righteousness also by the same faith. For by grace are ye saved through faith, and that not of yourselves, it is the gift of God, not of works, lest any man should boast. When the foolish thought of counting up any of your good works enters your head, at once correct your fault, and instead count up your sins, your repeated and numberless offenses, and you will find that they are as the sand of the sea, whilst your virtues in comparison are as nothing. How true is this? We forget so often, like, really how filthy we all are with sin, because it's easier to look at other people, to point to other people as the problem, or to point out other people's faults and flaws. You know, we're all guilty of this, myself included. When we hear anything bad of anyone, then inwardly comparing him with ourselves, we say in our heart, I am not like that. I am perfect compared to him. And thinking thus of ourselves and inwardly judging others, we are delighted that we are so much better than they. This is the pride of Satan. This is the stench of the carnal, sinful man. Many such thoughts flee from the soul. Let us consider ourselves as the worst of all men. When we hear anything bad of anyone, let us say to ourselves, we are worse, 100 times worse than this man, and let us pray from our whole soul for the convicted brother. Pride shows itself particularly in the fact that the man who is infected with it makes himself equal to all, or at any rate to many who surpass him in age, strength, and ability, and cannot bear to be considered beneath them. You know, special boys. We've talked about special boy syndrome, haven't we? If a proud man is a subordinate, he does not respect his superior as he ought, does not like to greet him properly, and does not respect his orders, but fulfills them unwillingly and only out of fear. He makes himself equal to better educated people, and does not acknowledge anyone to be superior to himself, or else acknowledges the superiority of only a few indeed. If he is learned, or even unlearned, son, he does not pay due respect to his parents and benefactors, particularly those who are simple and rough folk, considering himself equal to or even above them. Our self-love and pride manifest themselves especially in impatience and irritability, when some of us cannot bear the slightest unpleasantness caused to us by others, whether intentionally or unintentionally, or any obstacle, lawful or not, deliberate or not, put in our path. Our self-love and pride would like everything to be as we wish, that we should be surrounded by every honor and comfort in this temporal life, would like all men, and even so far do we carry our pride, all nature itself, speedily and silently to obey us, while we ourselves are very slow in faith, and in every good work slow to please the one master of all. In order to rule others, we must first learn to rule ourselves. That's so important. In order to teach others, we must acquire knowledge ourselves. If I do not know how to control myself, if I have no spirit of self-command, the spirit of meekness, holiness, love, and righteousness, then I shall direct others badly. If I am the sport of every other kind of vice, it is better for me not to undertake to rule others, lest I do greater harm than good, both to myself and to them. You must take the utmost care not to compare yourself with others in any respect, but always to put yourself below others, although in fact you may be equal to or even better than others in some respects. Everything that is good in us is the free gift of God. Nothing is our own, and that not of yourselves, it is the gift of God, not of works, lest any man should boast. And how can we take pride in a goodness that is not ours and make ourselves equal to those whom God has placed higher than us? It's a very good and a very hard question, isn't it? Now, we'll also read, because I think that this is actually quite connected to it topically, the acceptance of reproof. I know this is very hard for people who struggle with things like pride to, and I get all of us, all of us struggle with these things, but to get any kind of feedback, especially when it's negative or critical of us, it's sometimes, people, they get overly sensitive to that. We are often angry with frank and outspoken people for disclosing our faults. We ought, on the contrary, not merely to forgive such people, but to value them if by bold speaking they break down our self-love. I've had to do this, by the way, and I've actually lost friendships because I said what needed to be said, not what people wanted to hear. They are moral surgeons who, with a sharp word, cut out the rottenness of the heart, and they awaken in the soul deadened by sin a consciousness of sin and a quickening reaction. Sometimes people teach you by means of hints which you cannot endure, and you are vexed with your teachers. We must endure and listen with love to everything useful coming from anyone, whoever he may be. Our self-love conceals our faults from us, but they are more visible to others. This is very true. This is why they often remark upon them. Bear in mind that we are members of one another, and are therefore obliged even to correct one another. If you cannot bear others to teach you, and you are vexed with them for doing so, it means you are proud, and shows clearly that the fault at which others hint really is in you, and does indeed need to be corrected. Value highly and always preserve Christian meekness and kindness, mutual peace and love, crushing by every possible means the impulses of self-love, malice, irritability, and disturbance. Do not be angered. Do not even be disturbed when anybody tells you a falsehood to your face, or makes any unjust pretension, or speaks offensively, or boldly detects any of your weaknesses or vices, the wrongfulness of which, through your self-love, you did not suspect. This, I know, is a problem for everybody, every single one of us. I've had friends who have told me, sometimes harshly, like, my faults, and my immediate reaction is to, like, literally spiral. But then, after I take some time to really think about it, maybe they exaggerated when they were in a moment of, like, being upset, but there is, like, some truth to what they're complaining about. That it's really hard to accept that, but I think sometimes after we think about it, we're like, yeah, I think he did have a point, or she did have a point. Always first coolly reflect upon what your opponent says, as well as your own words and conduct, and if upon an entirely impartial consideration of your words and actions you find them just, let your conscience be at rest, and take no notice of the words of your adversary, either remaining silent or showing him his error quietly and gently in all kindness of heart. Should you find yourself guilty of that which some other person detects in you, then, putting aside self-love and pride, ask pardon for your faults and endeavor to correct yourself in the future. When others reproach us with anything, it should not irritate us or make us despondent. Rather, it should humble us, who are morally worthless, and should make us turn to God with the fervent prayer that he may heal our sicknesses, and by his grace supply that which is wanting in us, which for most of us is a lot. To grow irritated when reproached, and above all when we are reproached with faults which we really do possess, would only be adding one malady to another, one vice to another. It would mean we are sick with the willful blindness of self-love, which does not wish to see its own dark side and leads us to destroy ourselves of our own will. To despond when reproached is also most foolish. By the help of God's grace, the Christian can always change for the better if he wishes to do so. And it is for this purpose that the Lord sends us accusers, that we may open our spiritual eyes and see the deformity of our deeds and so correct ourselves. It is not that we may cast ourselves into despondency. Despondency is itself a sin and the work of the devil. Reproof ought to produce in us godly sorrow, which worketh repentance to salvation, not the sorrow of self-love. Now, the next part gets into irritability. I think this is super important right now. I feel like everybody is under some kind of like spiritual assault and spiritual attacks. And I think a lot of people are irritable, and in their irritability, they lash out at people that they care about. And I think this is happening a lot, especially, again, to people who are Christians, to people who are trying to live according to God's word and walk in the faith. We're experiencing a lot of these attacks and assaults, and some of it is us. Some of it is us becoming irritable. It is us being influenced by the demons and then lashing out at people when it is inappropriate. You know, the devil loves to sow division and chaos amongst believers. He doesn't like true fellowship, true brotherhood and sisterhood. That makes him angry. Now, one final comment I'll make on this as far as self-love goes and the inability to handle critical feedback. Using my mother as an example. Now, I love my mother. I pray for her. She struggles though, and she knows she struggles. I think she's starting to realize that she, you know, finally in her old age, that she does have some problems. But it's this inability to, my mother is hypersensitive to any feedback, and not just like negative feedback, but her narcissism like literally can't handle it. And I think it enrages her so much that she lashes out at people, and that's a problem. And because of this, she has pushed away every single person in her life, and she's run out every single boyfriend or husband that she had. And she gets upset about, why everybody has abandoned her and left her. And my sister is the one who tries to deal with her, because you guys know I had to cut her out of my life because she couldn't respect boundaries. Now, I'm obviously reconsidering this, just because I know she needs help, and I know I know that this is not all her fault. Her narcissism is a trauma response to things that happened to her that she has never gotten past. Mentally, she is 17 years old. She will always be that age mentally, and I've come to accept that now. That this is what you're dealing with as a 17-year-old that consumes a lot of alcohol. So it's hard. But my mother she's alone now, and all of her kids are grown and out of the house, so she has an empty house now. Like my brother, he's at college now. My sister has moved to a different state. You know about her relationship with me. She met my daughter one time, only one time, when she was a baby, and my daughter doesn't even remember it. Like, she doesn't have a relationship with her at all, and hasn't even tried, because of course everything's about her. And you do not want to end up like that. It's not good. And I think she's starting to realize that it's just, in her age, it's almost impossible for her to change her behaviors. And she when the hurricane was coming through, she was not wanting help from people. She wanted to ride it out with no shutters on where she was staying, just with her boxed wine and pets. And that just would have been a disaster. Thank God, my sister was able to convince her to actually evacuate, because she was in the evacuation zone, and get her into a hotel. But it's just, that's a life, that is from a lifetime of pride and self-love, and the inability to accept negative feedback from others, or other people having a different opinion. This is also why she goes through job after job after job, because all of her coworkers are out to get her because they make not even a criticism, but like a suggestion, or they try to help her like figure out how to use the copy machine, and she gets very upset and then she thinks that they're like picking on her. So yeah, I'm just saying, I think that can be very helpful and useful to people, even if you're not a Christian. I think spiritual counsels is just good advice for everybody. So I'm looking forward to reading Irritability next, and I think that you guys will find that helpful. Hopefully you'll find it helpful. So with that, I hope you all have a good day.